Good morning. I'm very happy to be here to present our pilot project. It's an online Sec 5 course that we're doing on a platform. So today we're presenting the highlights and the project, where it comes from. I am Sandra Lane. I'm going to switch slide here. I am Sandra Lane. I work for the Service National du Récit Domaine des Langues, and I work for the ESL program for the elementary and secondary level. And I am here today with my colleague. I will let him present himself.
Hello, I'm Martin Tremblay. So before joining the RÉCIT 2 years ago, I was an English teacher, mainly in Sec 5, and I had been teaching, for almost 20 years, and since 2013 with technology in my classroom. And so that led me to work a lot on this distance learning course, our online course for English Sec 5. I'm super happy to be here. We've been working on this for a while, and we've been wanting to release this for a while, so here we go.
And you see here the picture of our colleague Nadia Laurando, which she's in the room right now. Maybe she could say hi through the chat box. So Nadia works specifically for the elementary level. So she's also our colleague that we have a different mandates in the RÉCIT. So, like Martin said, it's been a while. We started working on this project 2 years ago, and today it's the first presentation of our, we're releasing our first unit, and we're going to start with our promotional video. So it's a world premiere. We have never shown this video before. So the video is in French because it's not only our audience is not only ESL teachers and CPs, but it's also for your principals and other people who might be interested in learning more about this online course. So let's roll it.
Le Service national du récit Domaine des langues a développé, en collaboration avec le RÉCIT de la formation à distance, un projet pilote de cours en ligne d'anglais langue seconde pour la 5e secondaire. Le cours couvre le développement des 3 compétences du programme et est partiellement disponible gratuitement dès maintenant pour les écoles qui participent au projet pilote. Dans le cours, l'élève aura accès à des modules interactifs qui le guideront afin de réaliser des apprentissages de façon autonome et à son rythme, des capsules dynamiques abordant des contenus linguistiques, des vidéos de modelage afin de bien comprendre et de mieux réussir les tâches, des capsules vidéo ludiques traitant des concepts à l'étude, des textes riches, variés et authentiques provenant du monde entier, ainsi que des tâches significatives et transférables. Afin de motiver l'élève, le cours lui propose des jeux interactifs et lui offre le choix de textes ou de projets technologiques. Il pourra donc, par exemple, pour un même projet, tenter de convaincre une mairie de renommer un parc en l'honneur d'une étudiante ayant contesté Hitler ou planifier une randonnée hivernale pour commémorer un explorateur britannique. Dans le cours, l'élève peut aussi s'approprier le contenu de façon autonome grâce aux différentes questions et rétroactions automatiques. L'enseignant, de son côté, peut suivre la progression de ses élèves à l'aide du cahier de traces et intervenir de façon ponctuelle afin de soutenir l'apprentissage de ses élèves. Le cours vise le développement des 3 compétences langagières de l'élève. Elles sont exploitées en synergie dans chaque module. L'enseignant aura donc plusieurs occasions d'accumuler des traces du progrès de l'élève. En plus d'évaluations formelles de l'enseignant, notre formation offre de l'auto-évaluation et des pistes de réflexion qui amènent l'élève à se questionner sur ses apprentissages. Mis ensemble, le contenu des modules et les tâches exigées permettront à l'élève d'assurer la réussite de son cours, menant à l'obtention de son diplôme d'études secondaires. un module du cours d'anglais de 5e secondaire développé par le Service national du récit domaine des langues est disponible et téléchargeable gratuitement pour les écoles du Québec dès maintenant à l'adresse suivante.
Yay! So we were very excited to present this promotional video. So I hope you're as excited as us. So let's move on. So if you have any comments, you can use the chat box also. So our intentions today, we want you to learn more about this online pilot project for ESL Sec 5 learners and understand also the potential of the project and eventually know how you can get it and have access to this online unit. So what is this project? Like we mentioned earlier, we've been working on this project 2 years ago. So it's a mandate that we received. It's a pilot project mandate that we received from the ministry. And there are different phases in this project. So one of them was to create, to have a secure, free online management system, a platform where students could have access to online courses which are developed by different RÉCIT national. So we are developing, like we mentioned, the ESL courses. So for now, you only have access to one unit, but throughout the year, you will have access to other units. And all the courses are scheduled for September 2021. So we couldn't do it without the help of our collaborators and support of the Service national du récit de la formation à distance, which they are here today. Nathalie and Yvon are with us. So they worked on the management and implementation of the Moodle platform, but also to develop online resources to help out everyone that is interested in distance teaching. And they have a website, so you have their address here, recifab.ca. So if you want to go on their website, they created a lot of tutorials to help out with certain functionalities of the Moodle platform. If you want to add things in the chat box, Yvon and Nathalie, feel free to do so.
All right, so the idea here is that you get a full year online as an ESL course. So a full year usually would be roughly 100 hours, give or take, and we know how it is. We get a lot of periods taken away for this and for that, but roughly we wanted to offer roughly 100 hours of class to the students. So the way it's going to be built is that you will have, students will have pre-units to make sure that they know what's expected of them and to prepare them to learn ESL online. And then afterwards, it's going to be followed by 5 units, one of which is already available to be explored online. And all of the other units are going to keep rolling out until September of next year. So the genesis of the project, so how it started, you probably are thinking that it's because of the pandemic, but no, like we said, it started 2 years ago. And the idea behind the project was that we wanted to offer quality education to every student in Quebec, no matter their situation. If they didn't have access to a physical classroom or teacher for whatever reason, be it because they were stuck at the hospital or they were on a tournament somewhere in the world, we wanted these students to have the same opportunities and quality education than the rest of the students. And then came the pandemic, which makes it even more appealing now because we never know if we're going to go back home and we won't have access to a physical classroom or a teacher. So that's how it started, but now we can see that it's going to be really useful. We're going to now tell you about like the values, because when we started thinking, okay, what's going to be, what are we going to do with this online course? Is it going to be just teachers speaking in front of a blackboard for an hour and so, and of course we could not go there, so we had to rethink how we were going to teach this online course. And of course we needed to ask ourselves what our values were going to be, so we'll tell you more about them.
Let us tell you more about the values at the core of our online course. Keeping students interested and engaged during an online course is of course difficult, but so important. That's why we selected stories and people that would be very inspiring and interesting for students. At the same time, we wanted students to discover other stories and people that they were maybe not so familiar with, such as Sophie Scholl, a student who, during the Second World War, opposed Hitler and paid with her life. Or Ernest Shackleton, a British explorer who set out to explore Antarctica and got stranded there in the ice for a whole year. Using authentic texts is a prerequisite of the program, but we also wanted the tasks to feel authentic. That's why students can expect to complete such tasks as having to invite a young activist to speak to their school, in this case, Autumn Peltier fighting to protect Canada's water, or Chutescat Martinez, a climate change activist who sued the US government over climate change. During an oral interaction, students will have to agree on who should make it to their wall of fame in their school to inspire students. For their first final task, students will need to think about ways to convince authorities to adopt a project commemorating an inspiring personal story. We wanted a material that was accessible, that would represent students' aspirations and full potential, ensuring their success while challenging them at the same time. That's why we've included diverse and inspiring role models to highlight their contribution, challenges, and success. Asking students to reflect on their learning gives them ownership of their progress. It also helps teachers keep track of success. For students to actively take part in an online course, it's important to give them choices and flexibility. That's why students are often given choices when it comes to text types and topics they want to explore. As for grammar activities, students can complete only the ones prescribed through tests before certain deadlines in a unit. Final tasks can offer choices about topics and products. They allow students to transfer what was learned. In the unit, The Power of One, students can choose between two inspiring people they'd like to work on and can choose the type of commemoration they would like to design for that person. Each story comes with additional texts that students can choose from to better understand it. In a nutshell, we wanted our online course to be a place where students would better understand the real world.
All right, so I can just read some of the comments. It's really encouraging. Thank you very much. A couple more words on the choices. So you've heard about how we felt with choices, but not only can students decide when they initiate certain learning activities, but they can also choose remedial activities, or if you want some of the choices that they won't make, this can be used for remedial activities. So it's all included for you teachers. They can also go further by following different suggestions. And because at the bottom, we often say, oh, check out how this artist did it in, I don't know, in Norway or whatever. And they can also choose to watch the videos or play the games as much as they need to learn whatever they need to learn. In terms of flexibility for you, the teachers, well, all of this material can be adapted. So that means that you can add in stuff, you can cut out stuff if you want. So it's really flexible for you to adapt it to the situation of your students. So we've already experimented with a group before the pandemic, and then the pandemic arrived. And then, so we had Tristan Boudreau from Centre de Service des Patriotes, who was telling his students, he was doing the unit, and he was telling his students, oh, this is just like what's happening in Saint-Julie and so on. So he made it, he personalized the content of the unit to the situation of his students. So that means that our goals, ultimately, our units, they aim at developing the 3 competencies in synergy and in context. So it's not every competency is present for each unit. So it's not like one unit that doesn't have one of the competencies. All of them are there in synergy within a unit. All of the units are also built around a guiding question that deepens students' understanding of the role of language and communication in our lives, because ultimately this is what we believe ESL should be about, is understanding what's the use, what's the purpose of learning a language or a second language. And the way we design our units, you're going to see it in a second. I know you can't wait. So we have an introduction video, and the way we did it is that we decided to go with a young person introducing the topic and what's going to happen and what the students are going to learn and what they're going to have to do. So we thought that would be very engaging and motivating to see another young person perspective on the topic and so on. Then it's followed by a survey, because as we know, science tells us that one of the best ways to know how a student feels about his possible achievement. Okay, how do they see them succeeding? So if you introduce the final task and you ask them, okay, so how comfortable do you feel in your chances of succeeding in this task? Then it can already tell the teacher, okay, yeah, I'm going to really keep a close eye on this student and help him out. For example, if they say that they're not going to succeed. Otherwise, some students, they say, oh, I know everything about this topic already, and we'll see if that changes with time. For the grammar, there's always a grammar component and linguistic components within the units. And like we said, so they've got a spot on their own, and students can go as they please. They have a deadline to achieve like some of the activities that are offered for the grammar part, but there's always like pre-tests, so that if they say, oh, I know everything about the simple past. Yeah, really? Okay, so maybe you do know a lot about the simple past, but you still have problems creating questions in the simple past. So students are going to have pre-tests that are going to assess their level in certain aspects of the grammar point, and then they can see with their results, okay, which part do they need to learn more or practice more, and then they can do them before they reach a certain point in the unit. For the unit itself and the content, so we always check, of course, prior knowledge with the students. So we activate prior knowledge. We prepare them for the final task, so that is like the big chunk of the unit itself, and then they carry out their final task. When all is said and done, then they reflect on their learning and what they're supposed to have learned, and hopefully they can answer that guiding question from the beginning of the unit. Afterwards, they have that same survey pretty much that they had at the beginning of the unit to see how they've progressed. So for the students who thought that they would not make it, so were they able to make it? How did they make it? What did they learn in order to make it? For the students who thought that they knew everything, what did they learn that was new ultimately? So this is pretty much how our units are structured. So we're going to take a look now at the unit that's available to you. Our first unit is called The Power of One, and like I said, it's built around a main guiding question, and the main question for this one is, what makes some personal stories so inspiring that we want to commemorate them? There we go. And to introduce the unit, like I said, we have a young person, a former student in this case, that is going to present it. Let's watch it.
Hi, I'm Temi, and a year ago, you could say that I was in your shoes. Yes, I did my English class online, and between you and me, it was the best course ever. This is why it's my pleasure to introduce you to this unit with a little magic trick. Check this out. So not too long ago, you read a story or saw a movie about a real person who did something extraordinary and you really liked it. Am I right? Pretty sure I am. But I didn't need to read your mind to know this. Turns out, we have always been fascinated by other people's personal stories. Stories from the time we were living in caves, to more recent stories of success and failure. It is captivating and inspiring to know that these stories really happened. In this unit, we want you to understand what can make some personal stories so inspiring that we want to keep them alive by commemorating them. To get there, you'll have to agree with other students on who can be considered inspiring. I remember I had a great discussion with other students online. We had to compromise to make decisions, and it wasn't always easy to debate our arguments, but we did it. You'll also get to know extraordinary people through different types of texts that will help you to understand what can make those personal stories so inspiring. Then, you will use what you just learned, because yes, you will learn. You will use what you just learned to help you to understand how a personal story can captivate and inspire. Finally, at the end of the unit, you will propose an original way to commemorate an inspiring person. I remember I decided to rename an elementary school in my town, and I created an amazing video to make sure I got noticed. To help you get organized, make sure to take a good look at the overview of the unit. Before I go, I want to wish you the best in this unit. I hope that, like me, you'll learn and be inspired by it. Oh, just got a message from a friend. See ya!
So I don't know if you were able to spot how many times she mentioned the importance of learning within the class. We mentioned our values, but our main thing with this course was not, okay, let's get this over with, here's your diploma. We really wanted them, we really wanted the students to learn a lot, and not just in English, but culture also, and about different people, and so on and so on. So as you can see, that former student, she's actually a former student of mine. She presented the different aspects of the unit, and like I said, there's a guiding question for the entire unit, but each activity is set with another question. So it's a little bit like mimicking the inquiry aspect. So because we want students to start thinking and asking themselves some questions in order to understand the world in which they live. So if we ask them, okay, what makes some personal stories so inspiring that we want to commemorate them? Well, they can start by thinking, who inspires you? And then who do we consider inspiring as a society? And what makes a personal story inspiring? What are the ingredients? And how do we connect with people and their stories? Finally, how can we commemorate people who inspire? And how can we persuade authorities to accept a commemoration project? Okay, and then of course you can see it if you teach Sec 5, then you know that persuasive text is coming. So we have the arguments and so on, but at least there's a context and there's a real goal. So to achieve this, and not just to say, okay, I'm going to hand this text to the teacher. Some students could actually end up doing it for real. All right. So we're going to take a little breather now. I see there's already some questions. So if some of you have some questions, you can either use the canvas that's there and the tools that are at the bottom, or you could also use the chat box. There was already a question that asked us for the history. Can we use this in history or French or something like that? Well, I'm glad that you can see that this could be used with many disciplines. So if your team talks to each other and they plan together, yes, history could be doing something, or Monde Contemporain or Univers Social, they could be doing a part of something, and then whoops, your project in English connects with them. So that would be great. So for ESL Sec 5, not for the moment. So the idea behind all of the courses, some of you might be asking yourselves, okay, is it coming for Sec 4, Sec 3? The idea was to have all of the subjects that were going to end up giving the diploma to the students. So for sanction des études. So that's why it's English Sec 5, History Sec 4, for example. Do we have other questions? But like we said, you can always adapt the material. So that's the nice thing about it. So if there are no more comments or questions, maybe everyone is flabbergasted. I don't know. Hopefully. All right. Is it usable without Moodle? So for the pilot project is set in Moodle, and this is where you'll see all of the advantages of having all of the different tools that we're using. Some of the texts also, we have the rights only to have them in a secured environment, but it would be possible, and we'll show you in the future also how you could be doing it in class, not necessarily with technology. So part of it in class, part of it outside the class as a hybrid model. All right. So oh, there you go, Sandra.
Can I talk?
Yeah, absolutely. It's your moment.
Yes, yes. So we showed you the structure of each unit, and we mentioned that the structure that was presented will be similar to all units. And now we're seeing how we develop this unit, and we're going to talk a bit more how the competencies are developed throughout the unit 1. So a word about oral interaction. 2 years ago when we started, it was the big question. So how is it feasible to do oral interactions online? But with the situation that happened last spring, I think many of you had experience with meeting students online and maybe having some breakout rooms to have discussions with students in class. So maybe the situation is something that will help you out in moving forward into this unit. But what we wanted to do is provide models of what success looks like. So we did videos of students interacting online, and so students can watch these videos and see students interacting, and in each videos there are there is functional language for students to use in their own oral interaction. Also, we mentioned that we gave access to a variety of authentic texts. I'm going to start a short video with no sound, just to explain and just to see how many different types of texts we have in this unit. So we have videos, we have articles, podcasts that students can listen to. Also, we have documentaries, we have timelines, we have magazine articles, and you see here there's a graphic organizer, so students will have to complete graphic organizers to synthesize important information. Then, as for the C3, so the final tasks, they will have to create, they will have to do a media presentation, their commemoration project, but also write an email to authorities, and we're providing models of such texts. So if you see here, these are presentation that are interactive. So if they click on each number, they have extra information to understand why or how to write an email or how to write to do a media presentation. In this case, we did an interactive image as an example, as a model, but students could choose to create a video, a poster, any type of commemoration project that they feel comfortable or that they feel that would represent their commemoration project.
So in order to sell that project. Thanks, Sandra. So, and as you can see, it's pretty much clé en main. So also when we started creating that project, it was meant to be totally asynchronous, so that means that the students would be able to do it on their own without a physical teacher. So that means that all of the instructions from the teachers, they had to be recorded. So you have that as well. So the setting to some activities, so or the final task and the explanations for the instructions for the activities. This is all part of you have videos that are going to get students in the mood to do these activities, just as if a teacher would be in class getting the students involved and engaged in the activities and the tasks. Same goes for the notions. Whatever needs to be known in order to do an activity or a task is also being taught and can be watched over and over as much as needed. So that's great if students miss for, let's say, because they're sick at home, and then they can continue learning and they don't miss a thing. Okay, so what have I missed? There it is. So they can watch it over and over until they get it.
Maybe I can add something. When we mentioned that it was flexible, is we chose to teach a certain way these elements, but if you could do that teaching part with your students, and this could be complementary. So you have different models, different ways to teach. In that case, it's expressing and justifying an opinion, but you could also teach it in class and use the video as extra information. Martin, it's still early. Maybe we could present one example of a video. So if we go back here, we had it, the Wall of Fame. Maybe we could give you an example of a type of video that we could, would you be interested in seeing that video? It's a short video just to get you
or maybe the traps to avoid, like just to show how we made it. Because of course, whenever you're doing these types of videos, you want to keep the students' attention, so you have to make them funny, or you have to captivate them. So some of them are a bit more on the funnier side. So maybe you want to show the one with the traps to avoid.
This one is not integrated in Moodle. I only have the Wall of Fame.
All right, so then that's one that they can explore on their own afterwards. So go ahead.
But you have access to all the videos in the YouTube channel, so, and in the presentation online. So the one that I'm going to show you right now, it's the Wall of Fame. So it's introducing the first task that students need to do that leads to oral interaction.
Oh, hi guys! Thanks for accepting my invitation. So last summer, I was lucky enough to walk on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in California. You know that famous sidewalk with the stars on it? Each star on the sidewalk commemorates a person from the world of arts. When I came back to school, I saw some pretty empty walls in the corridors, and I thought to myself, hey, what if we had a Wall of Fame? Except that instead of commemorating the achievement of artists, we could celebrate people that can inspire students in the school. As I was doing my research for this project, I discovered this interesting definition on the Biography Online website. Let's take the time to read it. Inspirational, to offer something positively valuable, long-lasting, uplifting, which motivates others to bring out the best in themselves. To be inspirational is to lead by example and encourage others to feel there is something worthwhile to become and do. So, what do you say? Do you think you can come up with a list of 10 famous people that can positively inspire students? Well, just talk to your partners and send me your suggestions. I gotta go give my class. Thanks.
So I will be taking your comments on my acting skills after the presentation only. When the recording is
So you just saw an example of an introduction to a task. No, he does great videos. Okay, yeah, very convincing. Thank you for the comments. Yes, Martin for president. I like your comments. So, and you haven't seen yet traps to avoid. So this is a spoiler. So after this presentation, if you go in our online presentation, go see traps to avoid. It's my best one. It's the one that I prefer. So if we're coming back to Moodle, so we mentioned that our team from the Formation à Distance and in collaboration with other RÉCIT built a digital student booklet. So to make sure that we have, we can keep traces of students' work and be able to provide feedback. So in that space, it's possible to simply take down notes. So in the case that students will have to read in the final task 3 different texts, the note space, they will be able to complete their notes as they're reading information and complete their graphic organizer to really synthesize the information. So the example that you see here is a screenshot of the student booklet where they have to complete a graphic organizer. So once it's saved, it stays there. Yes, these notes follow students that are viewable by the teacher. Okay, it's Martin that I thought it was a question. And if we switch in the back end, so this is the environment of the teacher. So teacher can have access to, you see, so each questions are there, or each activities that contains questions are accessible in their private space. So they see, I'm going to show it there. So here they see the answer of students, and in that space they can provide feedback or add comments to students. Okay, so this is how the digital student booklet works.
Sandra?
Yes.
Can you come back to that slide? So you mentioned that all of the titles there on top, so that's all of the notes, the different notes that the students have taken throughout the unit. So they're all there all the time.
All questions. So if I click, for example, in 2.1, if you have 3 questions, you will see the 3 questions, so you can correct each question in that activity. And I forgot to mention also at the top, you see here, there is a possibility to print all notes and print notes and feedback also. So you can have it on hand and correct it directly like this. So it's either digital, but you can also have a printed copy. So we mentioned the grammar and different strategies. So we have a section called the toolbox. So for now, you see that there are 3 elements. So you have grammar. We mentioned that in this unit, they will see the simple past. Maybe some students are, they know how to use the simple past, but we wanted to reuse it because they need to use it for their final task. So it's a prerequisite. And some discourse markers. And you have access also to some strategies. So in this case, we're showing them how to take notes using a graphic organizer. So you saw the graphic organizer that they would need to complete in different tasks. So here you have 5 different videos explaining what are graphic organizers, different types of graphic organizers. The one that we're going to be using in this unit is the character map. So here there's a video explaining how to complete notes using a character map, and so on. Of course, it's not an exhaustive list. Okay, so it's only 3 different type of graphic organizer, but students will at least see or understand why we're using graphic organizers. So I'm going to let you move on, Martin.
So I was answering some questions. You got your work cut out for you because you also have the timeline, so the planning. because you might be asking yourself, especially if you go in the Moodle, you'll see it's so organic. It would be so where does it start? Where does it end? Where does a class start? Where does it end? Well, here we have a timeline for you, and we cut out the different classes, how they could look like. We mentioned at the beginning, it would cover 100 hours of teaching and learning. And for the first unit, so that would mean about 16 periods of 75 minutes, roughly, depending on how much time students would need to do the final task, for example. And so it's all there. So what you're expected to achieve with the first class compared to, let's say, a class where you have the oral interaction that might take a bit more time, or the final task, for example. So we have another moment here. We had some questions. If you do have questions, you can either write them in the chat box or on the canvas.
Can I go back? You forgot to mention that there's a teacher's guide. So it's right there. So we also included a complete teacher's guide with different notes and answer keys. So everything is there. So you have the planning, you have the teacher's guide, and you have the complete unit that is available for you. So I think it's an important part. So you have access to this teacher's guide. Yeah, this teacher guide in the online presentation. So you will be able to look at it right there.
Yes, and since it's all digital, then you can add to it, and you can create your own questions or your own answers, your own answer key, because there's a lot of open-end questions, because of course, since it's online, you don't want everything to be facts, so we need to go deeper. So we had some questions already. If you have some more, you can write them in the chat box or within the canvas. So someone was asking if there's some sort of will there be, the progression between the units, grammar, topics, or otherwise. So this was, again, another challenge for us, because let's say a student is out somewhere on a tournament, but only for a month. It's different than a teacher who would like to use the material for a whole year, or a student who would have been absent for a whole year. So the units themselves can be used individually, independently from each other, but at the same time, someone who would start from unit 1 all the way to unit 5 would see some sort of progression, and also the way the topics would be covered. Okay, so when we do, for example, the justification in the first unit, we don't go all the way into teaching the persuasive essay, for example. So it's components, elements, it's way more guided than, let's say, what you would find in the 5th unit, for example, which has yet to be written. And that we can access this unit. It's available to teachers as we speak. Yes, it is. We're coming to this point, Connie, in a second. So we will be able to tell you how to have access to this unit. We're getting there, yes. Have you chosen the topics for the other 4 units? We could say yes, but it's still top secret. But because
we could give the titles of 2 units. We could.
Look at you this morning. All right. So you'll understand that we wanted to keep some of the stuff, like unveiling the stuff as we go, but let's just say that we will have a unit dealing with reality and dystopia. We're living, our reality sometimes looks more and more like a dystopian world, so that's something that's coming. And also all of these ideas, well, you can mention, do you want to mention some more, or how much do you...
The 2, just 2, the ones that might come out very soon. Yeah, it's about all the information, it's fake news and so on, but we're going to go in a deeper level, understanding all the information and how to select good information and so on. So I'm not giving a lot of details, but these are the 2 main topics that will come out shortly. Okay. I know, Martin, you wanted to keep it a secret, but I'm like a kid, so I'm excited.
Sandra's going off the script. We love to go off the script. We would not be here if we just kept to the script.
Yeah, Christmas in August. Yeah.
Benoit, I really like the fact that you see all the different possibilities to interact with the other subjects. Of course, that's something that's always on my mind, anyways. When I'm writing, is it cannot just be language. It needs to connect with the real world. So of course, some of you will say yes. I can see univers social, or I can see a éthique in there, of course, and this is what we want to achieve as well, to bridge it.
So a lot of questions. That leads us to now what? Now what? Where can I get this wonderful unit? So it's on the at this address. So rena.recifad.com. Maybe we could type it. Martin, could you type it in the chat box, please? And so the steps, I won't share my screen because sometimes the sharing my screen with the VIA doesn't work all the time. So we created that, thank you, Nathalie, she did it. So we created that short tutorial. So the first step is to go on at the address that is written in the chat box. Then you will scroll down and click on consultation. So you will see all the modules that are available right now. Then the second step, you would select our unit. And to view the units, you will need this unit, but all the content on this platform, you need to be logged in. So there's a username and password. So the username is visitor, easy. Password, same thing, okay? So right after our presentation, if you want to have access and go through the entire unit, you will be able to do so by going through these 3 steps. So is it possible to have it in your school, in your service center? So in service centers, we asked to name 2 2 people will be responsible for technological and pedagogical support. Okay, so if Moodle is implemented in your service center, so you would need to verify if it's implemented, then you will be able to ask your responsible person to download the unit to use it with your students. So they will be responsible to also create your groups and add students in your online course. So this is the way to go. So if you don't know who's the responsible person, you can contact your RÉCIT local. So I'm going to give you the address of where you can see where is your RÉCIT local. So I'm sure you know their name, but sometimes people change, So if you don't know the name of your resource person, you can click on the link that is just that I just put in the chat box. So you will be able to find that person, and I'm sure that person will be able to answer your question. So am I clear? Yes, and Nathalie, the responsible can contact also RÉCIFAD. Thank you. So is it clear, the structure of the, I want to make sure that it's all clear. So if it's implemented, you will be able to access and ask to, you're responsible to download the unit on your, for you to use. Yes, the videos are available. So there's a question. They're asking if all the videos are available on YouTube. Yes, they are. Maybe I'm gonna go get the if I can. If you give me a minute, I will give you the address of the channel, the playlist.
Sure. So that's it. So there's going to be a playlist, a channel, so you can do that in the meantime, Sandra, if you want to go and fetch it.
Yes, I'm doing that.
Yeah. Just like you saw in history, participated in the with history or the univers social. So you know that they have all of their videos cataloged on YouTube. So we're going to have that as well, as when they keep coming out, you will have access to them.
Okay, so I just added the link to the playlist of the entire unit. But like we mentioned, a lot of those videos are really linked to the activities. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so they're in context.
If I may add, Sandra, so for example, you'll find some videos there where students are modeling C1. That could be used with any C1 just to see how they're reacting and so on. And it really models what a C1 should be. It's not, I think that, I think that, I think that. That's not a C1. So it really shows the interaction between the students, hesitations, how do we interrupt politely, and so on.
So we are at that point where we're going to take all your questions. I know that Carol asked us, you're probably getting there, but how can teacher access the recording of the webinar? So the webinar will be accessible on our website in the webinar section in professional development. We will share the webinar with you guys so you can also share it with teachers. So what I will do right now, I will activate the cameras and microphones for all. So if you want to talk with us, you can activate your camera, your microphone, and we have about 8 minutes of questions that we can take if you have some, if we didn't answer. So any questions or comment or reaction and so on.
Goodbye, Tracy.
Bye. It's good to hear you, read you. So any reactions? Would you like to try it? Carla, hi.
Hello. Just a question. How many hours of sleep have you gotten in the last few months? My goodness, this is stunning. I'm just flabbergasted. It's wow. That's great work, and I just can't imagine the amount of hours you put in there. Wow. Great.
Well,
Thank you so much.
yeah, thank you. Yes, it's a lot of work, of course, but that's why we're excited this morning. It's a big project. Yeah. What I'm interested in is, you know, in the when teachers will use it. I'm, you know, comment je veux dire, I don't have the word, but j'ai hâte d'avoir le feedback. You know, I'm really eager. Yeah, that's the word. I'm really eager to receive feedback and even make final adjustments so it's really fine-tuned. So yeah, I'm pretty happy. Thank you for your comment.
I see some people say now I need to know how to work with Moodle, and so that's why the Service National RÉCIT they can help you with this. Plus the person who's responsible within your centre de service, so they can help you with this training and get more familiar with Moodle.
Yeah. So maybe before everyone leaves, I'm gonna just promote the next webinar because it doesn't stop here. You know, it's the first, so it's the launch of the unit. So we went through very quickly through the unit and our vision of what could be la formation à distance in ESL. So we will give another kind of training session with teachers who wants to, the teachers that want to use the unit in class with students and they have access to Moodle. So we're going to talk about how to effectively carry out the Sec 5 unit in class. So how to use it in kind of a hybrid model. So if I'm in class using this unit, how can I go about it? How can I teach with it? So we're going to go a bit more in depth in this in teaching with Moodle. And it's possible also to use, you know, different platforms. So access the content in Moodle, but students could do their homework through other platforms that school service centers are using, such as Google Classroom or Teams and so on. So this is another possibility that we're going to talk about. So just keep the date. So it's September 25th, and it's at 11:45. We're trying to select the best time to offer training sessions. I know it's not easy. We try to have as much people as we can, but we know people are starting school, so we never know. It will still be recorded, that part also.
Okay, I'll just answer. Marie-Pierre says everything needs to be done on computers, right? Actually, everything lives online, but you don't need a lot of imagination to say, okay, this part I could be printing it, or this part I could say this is a homework that needs to be done at home on their own machine. I don't think we mentioned, but the course is available on PCs, laptops, tablets, phones. So basically, if you have Wi-Fi, you have access to the course. So yeah, so there is some stuff that you can print or that you could show on the interactive whiteboard that could be done.
Yeah, we have some printables there. So for example, the graphic organizers or the C1 task, you can download the documents and students can fill them out on paper. They can also complete the graphic organizers, but the texts are available online. And of course, we had to deal with some kind of copyrights also. So some of the stuff, they need to be shown in a secure environment. So things that we cannot print, like I mentioned, the texts, but all the material that we did, the handouts can be, so you can adapt depending on what is available for you. Pierre, I know, but aren't students the students won't be equipped this year in your school board? I thought that students would have access to a personal computer at school because of the current situation. You know?
I'm really not sure this is going to be the case.
Okay.
I haven't spoken to all my teachers yet, all the schools, but I don't know because I spoke to a teacher yesterday, and that's what she was telling me, that the students would not be able to go to the labs.
Yes, that I know of, but for the access, maybe check with Dominic if he has information about it, because I learned that in some service centers they have to equip all students. So I don't know if it's the case into all the service centers. So maybe this is something you could check out.
Okay.
But we could always.
All right. Thanks.
What we can do. Yeah. Thank you, Mafia.
It's really amazing job, guys.
Thank you, Mafia.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, Charles, our labs are going to arrive at the end of November. Yeah. But you can always.
Yes, maybe I can take that one. So if the stuff arrives for the end of November or in November, then it's possible to start that unit then, and then whoops, maybe it will be just in time when you'll finish, and the second unit is going to have a come out as well, so it could be just perfect. Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah, thank you. So I don't know if you have other questions. It's almost 10, so we're yeah, I hope you're going to have access to your computers very soon. Yeah. Hi, Cynthia. Good. So you could always write us an email. Thank you, Diane. So you could always send us an email. So I'm going to give you my email here. I know that many of you already got my email. But if ever you need to send us some question and so on, you can write me an email and we will be glad to answer any questions.
I was telling a participant that one of the things we'd like to do is maybe create a group where users could meet and exchange, and then we could also see what's going on. You can of course imagine that if we had been in a normal setting, we would have been at Speak and in different centre de service to show you all of this in person. So the best advice we can give you right now is this was just like an overview. You need to go in there, explore it, own it. So this is our best final advice for you. Go and check it out, explore it, take the time, and then hopefully we see you on September 25th, and then you can give us all the feedback and so on.
Good. So
Thank you, Natalie.
yeah, thank you everyone. So see you. We'll see you on the 25th if you're available.